because of the undo button. It's tough, but yeah. Actually, maybe fall watch is more handy for this, because this is gonna keep on complaining about it. Keep it around? Yeah, I did. Cool. So this thing actually can detect modules. It's more powerful than GHCID, but it's way slower. But at the moment, we don't mind slowness, because GHCID is not gonna work at all, unfortunately. Oh, it doesn't know about tests anymore, right? We changed that recently. Watch. I need to remember to switch over to the other one again after this. It's actually clever to run this every time. I should add it to the other one as well. Clean, huh? Oh, I do it like that. But I changed that in the other project. Wait. I should somehow like be able to share my make files. There's a lot of overlap between them. I'm using make too much, I suppose. Maybe it's time for a more powerful, but stream for YouTube I think is a better one. There you go. Yeah. But it does compile. That's interesting. 69. What? I received a share code. Why aren't you doing? Delete the prelude or something. Oh, you don't have prelude. So we got the before 29. There's gonna be a lot of 16. Wish the editor could fix this for me. This is annoying. I know for a fact that you can do that in Java world. It's automated. Face. Post entry. Is that also in? Oh. We call this between planner and free request. Like I'm splitting the shared code between the modules. I feel this is really necessary. Right, you have validation, you have post entry. Post entry, which is from entry maybe. Invalid input, username of time selected. All these extra functions. That's from deeper, I know that. Name to dynamic. Planning. Create entry. Like, they just depend on this code. Both of them. Copied over. Change day with. Data input. until next event. Okay, this turned out to be quite a bit of a refactor actually. I see why I didn't do it before. Later than now, huh? Sounds like something custom. Yeah. I feel like I'm ripping out everything from this thing. The scope, text. Not the scope, RMS. Oh. Maybe that's this. No, it wasn't that. It was defined here as well. Oh, it's type. A crappy support library around validation, huh? The widget for the time widget select and labeled input. Some of these I know for a fact are not. Just copy paste. Right. But then like other things are like a tool widget. Yeah, definitely. Select to entry also. Like predicate, right? Yeah. Arrow wrap. I'm going to export that one as well. Valid time widget. And you're going to local time, okay. Nothing left? Still a fair bit. So this thing just is undo button and post entry form. Post entry form is pretty massive actually. Right, you don't know about that, or you think it's ambiguous. So we need to delete the other post entry form, because there's another one here. Name to local time, valid time, widget, attention. 7. Later than now. Was ask3 but even used. Oh, it is you. Oh, we should move that out as well, actually, because both forms can do ask3. Or maybe not. Yeah. And delete all the unused imports. 29. Maybe we had we needed data input. I don't know. Fuck. Apparently we need a drop down. 23. 17. 6. 1. Yeah. So another thing I can do later is add modify this command to say it's edited, so you know that you don't have to watch through everything. It's well still probably a bit too long to actually get like a good summary. Many things to think about. Right, just don't redefine it. Don't define undo but ask but. 7. There's more shit to delete, huh? I bet it's gonna end up being one function. I think ask3 is that complex. Blend form buttons. Oh, you need to have 2 rows. What am I doing? 74. Wait, it says it doesn't use it. Oh, it's because something else is. That function is also unused. It was just clever for me. Thanks. 5, 4, 3, 7. Six, 4. I hate this machine refactoring, but at least we'll have a nice overview now. I'm like using this module a lot lately, so yeah, it's worth applying to make it nicer. No one's being used. Seems misspelled. Oh, I know. Now we need to delete all the code in here. more annoying. So the select entry, post entry. Okay. That compiles. Right. It's the same problem here again, where the one function is not, but like the entire function wasn't used, so you can just delete anyway. I'm going to delete all these then. Type. Form error, but using later than now changed. I think that's it. I don't know why 2 rooms is also used here. Let's try. Later than now is also not used. It's pretty sparse. These 2 functions. Only used in this module, huh? 5, 7. Else it is cool, but have you used any other Haskell web framework? I did like one of those like test things you do for interviews with like Scotty. I think it was built on Scotty, but I don't think I used a lot of that. You mean front-end frameworks, or you mean back-end things? Like, there are only 2 front-ends, I believe, and it's like Miso and Reflex. And Miso is basically like Elm, I guess. Right, so I use servants mostly, actually. I used the. I mean, I looked at documentation, but that's about it for other frameworks. I don't think there's anything better than servant. But prove me wrong. I'm comfortable with servant as a backend. Yeah, but like the web frameworks, they all, I think, work the same way, right? You just attach function to REST APIs. I don't understand front end. Have you ever done any front end or only backend? Not really. Yeah, so then like using, because it's pretty overwhelming if you go from, like if you start for example with HTML, you suddenly have to use 3 different tool chains. Like you have to use HTML, then you also have the CSS stuff around it to style everything, and then you also have JavaScript to make things run. And like I'm kind of replacing JavaScript with Haskell, but I'm still using JavaScript under the hood, which I sometimes have to like enter. I think I have it in the tag or something. It's like my JavaScript hacks to see if something is edge or not. Very little backend as well. Okay. Well, the nice thing about backend is that you can like you can choose whatever you want, right? Because you control the code, and on front end you control stuff less. Even if you're gonna make like a native target like Windows or Linux, you're still depending on whatever the user is running. So you don't really know about resources and whatever. It puts like a lot of constraints on you, which is good and bad. I don't think I'm not sure if Reflex is a good way to learn front-end development. It's very opinionated though. So, like, there's only one way to do things, which is nice. But like, the knowledge is not really portable to other UI frameworks or whatever. And I was already familiar with, for example, Swing, or, well, basically doing jQuery with HTML, or Java Swing, huh? And then STL, I've done some stuff with STL as well. So like picking up something else was just more like an interesting little thing than trying to learn front-end development. Although front-end development is mostly boring for styling or whatever. Oh, it needs to have 2 rooms, huh? I want to make a Reddit phone, basically. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's like small enough to actually be able to finish. So actually the Miso one, that one, it has IDEs that are portable to other front-end frameworks because it uses the Elm architecture, which is now pretty widely used with Redux and React, and also Elm, of course. Or you could use Elm. Elm is also very opinionated, which is also nice. I'm not sure how opinionated Miso is, but I know for a fact that he used the Elm architecture. And I think like starting out with an opinionated architecture is not a bad idea at all. I think you can hack more with Reflex though. Like you don't have to, you still have access to I/O and whatever. You have like little gateways out. Get overwhelmed with all the choice. Well, Elm is very beginner friendly. Like the thing I'm afraid of with like starting out with Miso is that I wonder if it integrates with Reflex. That would be interesting. That's actually something I want to look into. Could you make this work together? Well, probably. Does it compose? Can I make like a Miso component and then have it talk to Reflex? Yeah, but like, you get into the regular DevOps hell from Haskell just to get something to build. I don't know how easy it is to set up DHCGS and whatever. But I know for a fact that you would get Elm running in like 10 minutes. Elm is really easy to set up. Week from day. What? think this is one of the infamous compilation, incremental compilation bullshit. Maybe I modified it. Oh, it was not even open in Emacs, that couldn't be the case. At the begin, maybe that's actually a good combination to do servant and then generate the Elm request things, and then like make your little Elm app talk to a servant. This thing will generate. Then you also have like kind of a. It's not easy to start out like that. But if you're like persistent, then yeah, sure. I learned a lot from generated code when I was younger. Real stuff was mostly generated, everything. Generated code is really, really dubious. Where am I? Yeah, actually, that's a pretty good idea. What Lumi is saying. You could totally make it completely form based. I completely forgot about that. You don't have to use a single page app. Yeah, especially because Chiroptical also is already familiar with type level programming, so servant shouldn't be an issue. Like that's the thing that people are usually worried about when looking at servant type level stuff. Input strings and then in data, input strings on type level. Wow. There are other ones like Scotty. And I think Yesod. Oh, you could use Yesod. Actually, this is also. I think this is pretty good. This is also very opinionated. Look at this one. This thing will integrate everything for you. This is like a classical Django style, or Django, or what do you call it? MVC. What else? Yeah, okay, Ruby on Rails. It's kind of like Ruby on Rails. Yeah, it hides a lot of shit behind templates. But to start out, that's like a great thing. Or you could dive into the whatever shit I was writing on my blog. I don't know. Like that, the blog posts I wrote were more about people that are already familiar with programming, like backend, frontend, whatever, and then wanted to go into Haskell. That's why I wrote those blog posts about servants and whatever, just to show off the power and like give some ideas. I know. Yeah. What was I doing? Right, we now have a planner. Now I can like search for it properly, because if I wanna do something with the planner stuff, I'm only gonna go to planner. Cool. And there's no duplicate code. It's actually kind of small. Yeah, I think it's a good way to start, because that framework doesn't do single page apps, and if you don't use single page app, then you're basically halving the complexity. Yeah, okay, cool. Persistence has a really easy learning curve compared to Beam. I think it's much better for beginners. Because Beam, it took me so long to just get a query. Then again, persistent can't do joins, so it's not that useful for relational databases. But if you're just making a small project, you probably can just choose Mongo and try that out. It saves a lot of time. Unless you actually want to have an eventuality to make a startup out of it or something, then I think it's completely fine to use Mongo. You don't have to model anything. Use Mongo? Probably not. Or do it coding style with SQLite. Make your own Mongo. The thing was like when I started out with Haskell, I was basically hired as a junior programmer, and the colleague of mine they recommended using Beam. So I tried to figure out how to do migrations like you would do in Django, and it just took ages. So much stress from that. He thought it was a beginner-friendly Beam, but I don't think compared to Persistent, it's much easier to pick up Persistent. Then again, like once I started using Persistent, I was more experienced with Haskell as well. But I think Chiroptical is also pretty experienced at this point. Where's the planning thing? Oh, it's planner, right? We're going to planner now. Right. Oh, we are in planner. So I make these two columns. Column classes multi-line. Oh, right. I just make everything into it. Oh, that's interesting. All the inputs are their own. Oh, these are the buttons. What am I talking about? What's the planet form? Column. So you put it into column, and then we make the fields. And I want to have a field for user. Okay, wait. I want to commit first, because this thing compiles. But thanks, bot, for making propaganda for Shine. He deserves it. Oh, he has a template thing, right? What we do, we split up plainin module. Still have this massive thing, the post entry form, and then here we need. So it's kind of weird because the planner is like code exclusive for planners. And then they both use post entry form, like the plainin and the planner, which figures out what to display. I guess like